Welcome to NuttieBuddie Entertainment. The Bad.
Okay, let's go to the bad. Okay, so with the bad, Chris, since you didn't have a good, why don't you give us your first bad?
Okay, here's this is like such a random one, but I just watched the last episode. That really weird interstitial scene when they go back to Tatooine at the start of the episode and they're like waiting in like a drink line, and then some like bully guy like bops in and like shoves some guy all the way, and then like Reva like says something to him. What was that? Why would we have like 15 seconds of this like bully on Tatooine and everyone's like, oh, I don't like him?
Well, he was in it previously.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, he was the taskmaster
Oh,
that Kenobi was working.
Wow.
From the first episode when he pushed the guy because he wanted more money. So we're supposed to remember that and have a connection.
Yeah. Okay, full circle on that guy's character arc. I guess he was a jerk in episode 1 and he was a jerk in episode 6.
How did you know that? How did you not know? Come on, man. Gotta connect the dots.
Well, here's the thing though. Why would Reva care that he was being a jerk though? That's the only other thing. Like, she's bad. Yeah. She's evil. Like, anyway.
Yeah.
Brian, what's your first bad?
My first bad was I guess I'll start with Qui-Gon.
You got like 80 there?
No. I'm debating if we should get into the writing and story, but I'll wait on that. I first was Qui-Gon not being in it more. It was nice to see him at the end, but I was hoping to see him more, especially during like the last episode, having him talk to Qui-Gon before he battled Vader. I think that would have hit a lot harder than just having him show up at the very end of the episode. So
listen, Liam Neeson films like 5 old man fights a terrorist or a gang or a drug dealer movies a year. He can't simply put Star Wars in his schedule. So that's why.
I guess.
Okay, and I thought I agree with you, Brian. So remember the first lesson that Qui-Gon taught Obi-Wan was, do you guys remember?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, no. Be mindful of the present, don't, because he's like, I have a bad feeling about this, and he's like, your mind needs to be in the here and now. That would have been a great pep talk for him in that moment. Instead of focusing on the past, you need to be present. You need to be in the here and now. So in the episode 1, he was talking about the future because Yoda said it's okay to be mindful of the future. And he's like, well, not at the expense of the present. And I was like, that would have been so cool if that's the pep talk that Qui-Gon would have gave him. Be like, don't be focused on the past. Remember, you got to be in the present. You can't be in the past at the expense of the present. I thought that would have been awesome. Luke, you had something to say?
In this show's defense, not that I'm disagreeing with you, that wouldn't have been cool. In this show's defense, that was what, 1999?
So it would have required some effort to write like a good scene. Yeah, I guess the show's defense.
Or I'm just simply saying, Obi-Wan, an old man, having to remember, like, don't you, like, that's not going to be on the top of his mind in that moment. I thought that it made sense that he had not developed the proper connection since he couldn't let go of Anakin, and then he finally let go of what happened with Anakin, and then he was able to see Qui-Gon. I thought that made sense. It would have been cool. You're absolutely right. But I just thought it made sense that once he was past that, then he was ready for it. It can be cheap and whatever to get you excited for season 2 and all that, but it just, to me, that part of it made sense actually.
Merchandising
not a bad thing. I would have liked more Liam Neeson. I'm with you. I would have liked more Liam Neeson. It just, to me, the timing of that made sense.
Go ahead, Chris.
No, actually, I was going to talk about. I have a feeling this is going to come up later from one of your things, so I'm gonna let that thought go.
Okay, well, write it down just in case I don't bring it up. Okay.
All right.
But yeah. Okay, yeah, no, but I agree. I felt like the Qui-Gon Jinn moment could have been more powerful. That's all I'm saying. Like it kind of was just like shoot it, like you said, Luke. It's sort of like, hey, next season, let's see where this goes. So, Luke, do you have a bad for us?
Yeah, the show in general. If you had told me we were gonna get 6 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi between episode 3 and episode 4, I would be like, oh man, how are we gonna possibly squeeze a story with all of these things that we can do in 6 episodes? And yet somehow the episodes were not that long, and I felt like we had filler. Like that's frustrating. That's really frustrating.
Yeah.
Because it felt like they took 2.5 hours of content and tried to drag it into what was the extent of it? 3.5 hours? Like what was the actual runtime?
I actually
not
have
even
it right
that
here.
long.
I got it right here. It was 3 hours and 52 minutes of runtime. I subtract the credits.
Yep.
I didn't subtract the recaps though, so it was probably
Okay.
like what 345.
We'll go 340 even, like
Yeah.
3.5, 340. So
Yeah.
like if you were to tell me that we had 3.5, even just 3.5 hours of Obi-Wan Kenobi between episode 3 and episode 4, I would have been like, I would like more than that. And yet I feel like we spent way too much time caring about characters I did not want to be watching in a show that is Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is very frustrating for me. That is just bad. That is just bad. That's frustrating.
It's a part of the reason why I didn't want Leia. Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, and remember, like the first week we got episode 1 and 2 out.
Mhm.
If I would have just seen episode 1 and have to wait a week for like the second episode, like I would have been very irritated. Like those two went good with each other. It's just I will always say like they need to just drop all the episodes at one, or they need to up their game and have a minimum of like 45-minute episodes. Like the last episode, it felt longer and it was just like by 10 minutes, you know. It'd be great to have like an hour, but even if it was just like a consistent 40, 45 and not like a short 28 is just ridiculous.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, no, I actually like that they do the weekly releases instead of dumping it all at once. Because what happens is when a show comes all out at once on a Friday, people binge watch it, and by Sunday night, and then by 1 week later, they're like completely moved on to a different thing. So maybe they knew this, for the last 70 years of TV. If you have content that comes out every single week, then people have something new to talk about every week. So it kind of keeps it in the cycle. So I do like weekly releases, but I 100% agree that also for the last 70 years of TV, dramatic TV episodes, excluding commercials, are 42 to 50 minutes, no exceptions. So we can't be getting away with this 31-minute nonsense because you don't know how to start and edit an episode at a logical endpoint. So that is highly irritating to me as well.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Luke.
It felt like that was episode 4, right? That like started and was over before, like, oh my goodness, what? The credits were rolling. And what it felt like to me was that they, in their mind, thought like that episode 4, like, okay, so we're gonna have him do this, we're gonna have him do this, and this is gonna take this long, it's gonna take this long, it's gonna take this long, and then they filmed it all and they realized that it wasn't long enough. Like that's what it felt like, which to me just kind of seemed,
because episode 4 was him going into the Inquisitor's strongholds, right?
Yeah.
That concept, I feel like that should be something that you can spend a long time in. Just the concept of that, if you give it the
100%,
you give that the detail that it could have.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me screamed of, we need to get this out on Disney Plus by a certain date. This is as good as it's going to get. So which is very frustrating for someone like myself who has been looking forward to this particular show more than any movie or anything that's been
100%.
This was so I'm really happy that I got to see Ewan McGregor be Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I am frustrated by, like, I wish it got the care that I feel like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau put into The Mandalorian, and it feels like that was missing at times. And that, especially with like that episode in particular, I thought it was just missing.
Preach, Luke, preach. That's my biggest. I just felt like the show could have been cared for better than what it was, is my larger point to this. And I'll go into my first bad because it's kind of in harmony with yours, Luke, about just wanting a show about Obi-Wan and Vader, basically, and that connection. My first bad is Reva.
I'm surprised you have her in your bad.
Well,
Expected ugly.
Yeah, it was hard because I have a lot in my ugly, so I wanted to, and like I didn't entirely like. Okay, so her story is very unique. That's what I like about her. It's like a youngling that was scarred and now is seeking vengeance, and I actually like that. Like that, like is interesting to me. It's sort of like
good bones.
Right. It's sort of like when Finn is a stormtrooper that wants to be good. It's like we've never seen that before. So it's something like unique. So that's why it's in my bad and not ugly, because I felt like, man, there would be something there. But there's a lot of problems with Reva. She's very inconsistent and up and down throughout the series. Like she's supposed to be trying to get to Vader, but she like enjoys being evil at times, which I don't get. Her goal is to get Obi-Wan, but it changes halfway through to be like, oh, I don't want Obi-Wan. I want to find this Jedi path now when she's interrogating Leia, which I'm like, where did that come from? Why do you care about the path? Aren't you only worried about where Obi-Wan is?
Also, how would Leia know where that, like, the 10-year-old girl knows? You tell me right now. It's like, she's a 10-year-old girl. Like,
I mean, she kind of did know, but
right. But like, how would she know that? How would Reva know that Leia knows that? Like, they captured her. They took her from where she was. Like, it didn't make sense. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, thanks. No, that's fine. Then by the time we find out what her motivation is, it's like we don't care at that point, like, because she fights Vader and she really should have died, right? Like when we found out, like, hey, I'm trying to kill Vader. Like, I just felt like that was poor writing, just because, and I think I told you, Brian, this. If they would have revealed that her goal was to get close to Vader somehow and to kill him, like in episode 1 or episode 2, I feel like we would have been more invested in her mission. Like every time she's in the room with Darth Vader, we're like, oh, is this going to be the moment? Is this going to be a moment? Every time Vader goes after her, is he going to find out? You know, sort of like this back and forth. I felt like we missed that. So like, and not only that, but every time she has to force herself to do something evil, right? We would have been like, don't do it, Reva, don't do it, because we don't want her to go all the way in. Like, I felt like we definitely, if they wanted us to be invested in this character, they really missed on it, because I think if they would have revealed her intentions earlier in the show, we would have at least have been invested in what she was trying to accomplish, instead of revealing it in episode 5, right before she basically should have died. Right. So that's part of my problem with Reva. I got more, but go ahead, Chris.
This is probably one of yours. Why did she go to Tatooine and want to kill Luke?
Yes, absolutely. Like the 180 of like, my vengeance is to kill Vader, to like, no, I want to kill the kid.
Well, she tried to kill Vader and she couldn't get to him that way. So she somehow knew that Luke was his son. So
we'll
he's
talk
like,
about
I'll go
that
for the next best thing. So yeah.
But why though? Like that,
I know
that wasn't in her.
That kind of leads into my bad, which is the writing and storytelling, specifically when it comes to Vader. First off, like when he fights Kenobi, drags him through the fire and then lets him get away, but then he yells and chokes Reva for letting him get away when he did the same thing. It's like,
and then in episode 6, they're chasing the ship and they're like, hey, yo, we could capture like a whole bunch of people. And he's like, no, I gotta kill Kenobi. But you let him go in the 3rd episode when you can control his body. You're like, woo, and like dragging him around and like rubbing his face in the barbecue. And then, but like, oh no, the flames are back up. I can't do it anymore. My XP ran out or whatever.
Yeah, it didn't even feel like he was like scared of the flames. They just never explained like why he let him go away. Was it to, get more of the rebels or something that were helping him? Well, that doesn't make sense, because he let them go when he went and chased Kenobi to fight him. So it was just very inconsistent. And then also like with Reva and like Leia, when she was like interrogating her, ready to torture her, and then you get this next episode where she lets Luke survive or whatever, and then she's also wants revenge, but it just didn't make sense that she wanted to do this thing to a young girl, and then all of a sudden like, oh no, you're completely fine, whatever.
No, it just, that's part of it. I had that Vader fire thing in my ugly. I just felt like, because his suit is actually fireproof. Like he could have walked through that. And I thought that would have been such a great scene, him just walking through that fire. I didn't even want him to put the fire out, which he did like 2 seconds ago. Just have him walk through the fire, which would have been sweet.
Yeah.
The Reva thing, just to go back to that, because you mentioned about why she went after Luke. Again, that doesn't make sense. Here's a couple other things that I didn't understand. So she was obviously the smartest person in this series. She was the only one to figure like, hey, if I want to find Obi-Wan, I should look in the archives 10 years after. Hey, why don't we check the archives and see if Obi-Wan is close to anyone? Like Anakin, Vader didn't think of that, like to draw Obi-Wan out. And Bail Organa. She found the path, which nobody else could find. But not only did she find the path, she was able to somehow get to the end of the path before Leia got to the end of the path. Probably
she knows parkour.
I was gonna say, well, that was part of my silly writing. Yeah. I didn't mind the parkour thing so much. What I did annoy me was they put it in there just for the sake of putting it in there. It led to absolutely nothing, so it was completely pointless. She somehow knew she kind of knew Obi-Wan was going to come and save her, right? Like, so she puts a tractor in the droid, like thinking that Obi-Wan would escape with Leia, which I'm like, why would she have done that? That doesn't make much sense. She was the one out of all the Inquisitors to check the manifest that where the ship was going. She was the only one. Like, remember, she walked in and the fifth brother's like, you lost her. Now we'll never find, you lost Obi-Wan. Now we'll never find him. No, I checked the ship's manifest. It's like, okay, why didn't the other guys think of doing that? Like where it was going. She survives 2 stabbings. I understand the first one. The second one, not the first one. The second one, she tapped into the dark side. Makes sense. The first one, when she was a youngling, she should have died. Like there's no reason why she should have lived on that. And she's now the only person that knows. She somehow knew about Anakin being Darth Vader. And now she's the only one in the universe that knows that Anakin's Darth Vader and Leia and Luke are his children. So that breaks canon. And all around Reva. So that's what my Reva rant. Didn't like her in the bad as in general in this series. Thanks so much for listening to this clip of the NuttieBuddie Entertainment podcast of the great, the good, the bad, and the ugly for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. If you'd like to listen to the rest of the podcast, go down and click on one of the links below or search NuttieBuddie Entertainment wherever you listen to podcasts. Please also subscribe to our channel, like the video, and comment down below and let us know what you appreciated about the Obi-Wan Kenobi series or what you didn't appreciate. Maybe your great, good, bad, and ugly. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we will talk to you guys next time.